You sit down to enjoy your morning coffee, read the news, and everything feels normal, until you forget your neighbor's name. You've lived next to her for 15 years. You laugh it off, but deep down, it worries you. What if this forgetfulness isn't just age? What if something you do every single day is quietly erasing the sharpness of your memory? As a brain doctor, I've treated thousands of older adults. I've listened to their stories, watched their minds fade slowly, and in some cases, rapidly, and what still shocks me most is this: many of them were unknowingly accelerating their own memory loss. Not with junk food. Not with alcohol. But with a habit they believed was helping them. You might think this doesn't apply to you, that you're doing everything right. But let me tell you about one of my patients, Mr. Roland. He was 71. A retired math teacher. Loved Sudoku, chess, and had a laugh that filled the room. One day, he came in because he forgot how to get to his own daughter's house, a route he'd driven hundreds of times. That was the first red flag. When we ran tests, we found something alarming. His brain scans didn't show damage from a stroke or Alzheimer's. It was inflammation. A kind that builds slowly, caused by years of disrupted sleep, sugar crashes, and overstimulation, all triggered by one hidden culprit: poor morning habits. I know it sounds too simple. But memory loss often starts with what happens in the first hour of your day. And that brings me to a shocking discovery: the single most damaging morning habit I see in seniors isn't skipping breakfast or forgetting meds. It's looking at their phone first thing after waking up. When your brain wakes up, it needs calm, a soft entry into the day. But the moment you scroll through emails, headlines, or social media, you send your nervous system into alert mode. Cortisol levels spike, your focus scatters, and your brain misses its chance to reset. That's how your hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, begins to struggle. Think about this: your brain spent the night sorting through memories, storing important ones, clearing junk. But the moment you shock it with news alerts or political debates before breakfast, it's like shoving clutter into a house you just cleaned. No wonder your memory starts slipping. I had a patient, Margaret, 68, who told me she couldn't go a day without checking Facebook the second she opened her eyes. She didn't feel right until she'd seen the updates. But over time, her mood worsened. She started forgetting where she put things, even missing her medication times. When we changed her morning routine, within weeks, the fog began to lift. This habit doesn't just affect mood. Morning phone use has been linked to reduced melatonin levels, disrupted sleep cycles, and increased inflammation markers, all of which are silent enemies to brain health. Your mind doesn't just need rest. It needs recovery space. And by giving it constant input, you leave no room for clarity. So what can you do instead? The first 30 minutes of your day should be sacred. No screens. No alarms screaming from under your pillow. Let your body stretch. Hydrate with a glass of room temperature water. Step outside for light. Just 5 minutes of natural morning light helps regulate your circadian rhythm and boosts your memory-protecting hormones. I often say this: your brain is like a sponge in the morning, soaking in whatever you give it. Give it chaos, and it stores chaos. Give it peace, and it carries peace into the rest of your day. One of the simplest ways to protect your memory is to begin your day with quiet intention, not clutter. Margaret now keeps a small notebook by her bed. Instead of scrolling, she writes down one thing she's grateful for each morning. Her mood lifted. Her energy returned. Most importantly, she felt back in control. That's the power of reclaiming your mornings, they set the tone for everything that follows. The damage done to your memory isn't always dramatic. It's subtle. It's the names you forget, the words that slip away, the fog that rolls in during the afternoon. But behind every one of those small moments could be a fixable habit, like how you begin your day. So tomorrow, when you wake up, don't reach for your phone. Reach for your breath. Sit up slowly. Thank your body for another chance to feel alive. That simple shift may do more for your memory than any supplement on your shelf. Your brain needs space to think clearly, but one of the most common things seniors unknowingly do each day is overload it from the moment they wake up. You wouldn't overload a circuit with too many plugs, so why treat your mind that way? And it's not just phones or screens. For many, the second mental clutter comes from multitasking. Maybe you're trying to make breakfast, check the calendar, feed the cat, and remember a doctor's appointment, all at once. The brain wasn't designed for that. Especially not after 60. Let me tell you about Mr. Samuel, 74, a retired civil engineer. He prided himself on staying busy. His morning routine was a whirlwind of to-dos, but after a fall in the kitchen, and several forgotten conversations, he finally came to see me. His scans were clean, but his brain was overwhelmed. It needed calm, not chaos. When I asked Samuel what he did each morning, he laughed and said, "Everything at once, Doc. I've got a list a mile long." That list, I told him, was the problem. The aging brain thrives on simplicity. You don't lose sharpness overnight, you wear it down, little by little, by never giving it a chance to fully focus. One small change made a difference. Samuel started spacing out his morning tasks. Just one thing at a time, first water, then a walk, then breakfast. Within weeks, his mind felt clearer, and his energy returned. He wasn't doing less, just doing it slower, with intention. Another forgotten habit. Breakfast. So many older adults either skip it or load up on sugar, cereal, sweet coffee, pastries. That blood sugar spike may feel energizing at first, but it crashes your focus by mid-morning, dragging your brain into a fog. Your brain, especially after 60, doesn't want sugar highs. It needs steady fuel. Think protein, healthy fats, and fiber, an egg, some oats, a handful of berries. These foods help stabilize energy and give your neurons what they need to fire smoothly. I had one patient, Ruth, who said she wasn't hungry in the morning. But she also said she couldn't focus until noon. When we simply added a small smoothie with banana, peanut butter, and flaxseed, her mood and clarity improved dramatically within 2 weeks. That's the thing about memory issues, they rarely feel urgent at first. But small daily decisions compound over time. One skipped meal, one chaotic morning, one sugar crash here and there, and suddenly you can't remember the name of your medication or the reason you walked into the kitchen. These are not just random moments. They're signals. They're the brain telling you it's tired, inflamed, and needing your help. But the good news is, this is the kind of damage you can reverse. You just have to start noticing the habits that are harming you. Your memory isn't failing because of old age. It's struggling because of how you start your day. If you can change just one thing, even today, make it this: protect the first hour of your morning like it's the most valuable hour of your life. Because it is. The first hour of your day tells your brain what kind of day it's about to have. But the next habit I see all too often. Seniors jumping straight into the news, especially bad news. Now, I understand wanting to stay informed. But when the first thing your mind consumes is fear, chaos, or crisis, it triggers a stress response that stays with you all day. Cortisol, the body's stress hormone, rises rapidly with upsetting content. And that's not just bad for mood. It directly impacts memory formation. High cortisol levels shrink a key area of the brain called the hippocampus, the memory center. So, when your day begins in distress, your brain literally holds on to less. That's why I recommend starting the day with something calming, not alarming. Music. Deep breathing. A slow walk. A few minutes of light reading or gratitude. These small changes lower cortisol, improve memory retention, and even reduce inflammation in brain tissue. Let me share about Ms. Elaine, 78. She told me she'd start every morning with the stock market report and political debates. She wasn't sleeping well. Her memory was patchy. She felt anxious by 9 a.m. We swapped her routine, just 15 minutes of quiet time with tea and classical music before anything else. Within 3 weeks, she said it felt like a fog had lifted. Another habit many don't think about. Dehydration. Your brain is 75% water. Yet, most seniors wake up and go hours before drinking anything. Even mild dehydration can cause brain cells to misfire, leading to poor focus, slower thinking, and forgetfulness. Think of your brain like a sponge. Without enough fluid, it dries out and stiffens. No matter how hard it tries, it can't absorb anything new. That includes names, dates, where you left the keys. A simple glass of water in the morning can kickstart mental clarity better than coffee ever will. Here's a quick rule: drink a glass of water within 15 minutes of waking up. Before tea. Before breakfast. Before anything. This rehydrates your brain after hours of sleep and boosts circulation. And if you add a tiny pinch of sea salt or a few drops of lemon, you also restore essential minerals that support neuron communication. Now let's talk about another invisible drain on memory: background noise. I see this often: TVs on in every room, radios playing news non-stop, even during meals. Most people think they've tuned it out. But your brain never stops listening. And for seniors, that constant auditory input quietly overloads working memory. In one study, seniors exposed to constant noise performed 30% worse on memory tests than those in quiet environments. Why? Because attention is a finite resource. The more noise, the less your brain can concentrate. Silence isn't boring, it's fuel for memory. Let me tell you about George, 80, a jazz lover. He had music on 24/7. Beautiful music, yes, but even beauty, non-stop, becomes clutter. I asked him to try 2 hours of silence each day, especially in the morning. His wife later said, "It's like he listens better now. Like he's more present." That's the power of quiet. One more thing I've noticed, and this might surprise you, is how many older adults start their day completely alone, not speaking a single word for hours. Now solitude can be healthy. But silence without connection? That can cause the brain to withdraw. Social interaction is vital, not just for joy, but for memory retention. Even a short conversation, a phone call with a friend, chatting with a neighbor, greeting someone on a morning walk, helps stimulate language centers in the brain, improves recall, and boosts mood chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine. Loneliness shrinks memory. Connection grows it. So if your mornings feel silent, consider adding some gentle human contact. Speak out loud. Greet the day like it's a guest you've invited in. That small act can tell your brain, you're still part of the world. And that sense of belonging? That's memory's favorite medicine. There are no magic pills that fix memory loss. But these little rituals, quiet over noise, hydration over caffeine, connection over isolation, they send signals to your brain, you matter, you're safe, and you're still learning. That's how memory is protected, not with fear, but with care. You see, what most people don't realize is that our brain is like a sponge, it soaks up everything from the world around us. But when you keep soaking and never wring out the stress, the toxins, the mental overload, that sponge starts to weaken. And if you're over 60, that weakness doesn't show up as pain. It shows up as forgetfulness. A missed appointment. Struggling to find the right word. Or staring at a familiar face, unable to remember their name. This brings me to a patient I saw last year, Barbara Miller. She was 72, a retired schoolteacher who prided herself on never missing a detail. But lately, she'd been forgetting the names of her students, even the ones she taught for over a decade. "It's just age, right?" she asked, trying to smile. But behind that smile, I could see the fear. What if it was something more? What if it was the beginning of decline? When I looked closer at Barbara's daily routine, something stood out. Every morning, before even getting out of bed, she scrolled on her phone for an hour. News headlines. Social media posts. Random videos. All before breakfast. All while still under the covers. That might not sound dangerous, but here's the science: this habit creates a cortisol spike. And repeated spikes of cortisol, the stress hormone, directly shrink the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for memory. Now, cortisol isn't always the villain. We need it to wake up, to respond to danger, to stay alert. But too much, especially in the early morning hours, can wreak havoc on your memory center. Think of it like watering a plant with boiling water. You think you're helping, but you're actually burning the roots. Morning phone use floods your brain with information, emotions, and often, negativity, before it's even had time to stabilize. Barbara had no idea. She believed she was staying informed. "I don't want to fall behind," she said. But the cost of staying plugged in was memory fatigue, mental exhaustion, and emotional numbness. When I asked her to swap morning phone time with something simple, a walk outside, 5 minutes of quiet breathing, or even listening to classical music, the change was remarkable. In just 3 weeks, her mood lifted. Her memory lapses became less frequent. Her energy returned. We often underestimate how fragile the brain becomes with age. At 30, your brain can handle chaos. At 60 or 70, it craves calm, routine, and space to reset. That means what you do in your first 30 minutes after waking can either protect your memory, or silently steal it. And most people are unknowingly choosing the latter. Let's talk about another man I worked with, Charles Whitman. 68 years old, former accountant, methodical, organized, the kind of person who always balanced his checkbook to the last cent. But he came to me after forgetting to pay his property taxes for 2 years in a row. His wife was panicked. This wasn't like him. "I feel like I'm slipping," he said. Charles didn't use social media. He didn't scroll the news. But he did something else. Every morning, he watched TV news for 90 minutes straight. It was his background noise, he said. But what he didn't realize was that it wasn't neutral. The constant stream of negativity, breaking news, and alarming headlines triggered a stress response, same as a tiger would have centuries ago. Fight or flight. Every day. On repeat. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a televised one. And when you're over 60, your brain isn't as quick to calm down after being rattled. It stays tense longer. That means memory retrieval becomes harder, focus takes a hit, and your emotional resilience weakens. When Charles switched off the morning news and replaced it with birdwatching from his porch, literally, just 20 minutes a day, his anxiety dropped, and his memory improved. You don't need a fancy meditation app. You don't need a brain supplement from the internet. What you need is to reclaim your morning. Protect those first moments after you wake. Give your brain quiet, not chaos. Stillness, not stimulation. That's how you shrink the fog. That's how you strengthen memory. Small shifts that lead to massive change. And here's the part most people don't talk about: when you start your day with panic, your body gets addicted to it. You begin to crave stimulation. You reach for your phone not because you want to, but because your brain is now wired to expect noise. That's a habit you can break. You just need to replace it with something healing. Charles told me something that stuck with me: "Doc, I never knew silence could feel this good." And Barbara? She started journaling in the morning. "It's like my thoughts finally have space," she said. These aren't huge shifts. But they're life-changing ones. And they're available to you, right now, no matter your age, no matter how forgetful you feel. Let me share something that most people never hear from their doctors. Memory loss isn't just about aging, it's about habits. And one of the most damaging habits I see, especially in people over 60, is skipping meals or eating in ways that send blood sugar on a roller coaster. You may think missing breakfast or grabbing something sugary is harmless. But to your brain, it's a crisis. It thrives on stable energy, and when that energy dips or spikes, memory takes a hit. Take Linda, a 68-year-old retired artist. She often forgot to eat in the mornings and grabbed cookies or juice in the afternoon when she felt tired. Over time, she started struggling with focus, felt foggy, and couldn't finish her paintings. Her blood sugar swings were like a mental seesaw. Once we introduced balanced meals with fiber, protein, and healthy fats, her focus returned. She said, "It's like my brain woke up again." When you go long hours without food, especially after 60, your brain may struggle to stay sharp. It's not just about hunger, it's about fuel. A steady source of clean energy keeps your neurons firing smoothly. That's why I recommend small, consistent meals that combine brain-friendly nutrients. You don't need a complicated plan, just real, whole foods that support memory and mood. Hydration is another major piece of this puzzle. You'd be surprised how many memory complaints are linked to something as basic as not drinking enough water. Mild dehydration, even just 2%, can reduce memory function, slow thinking, and increase confusion. And the older we get, the less our bodies send strong thirst signals, making it easier to forget to hydrate. My patient George, 80 years old and always sharp, came in one day worried about sudden forgetfulness. His labs were fine. His diet hadn't changed. But he had recently stopped carrying his water bottle around. We brought hydration back, just simple room temperature water every few hours, and within days, his clarity returned. Sometimes, it's the smallest habit that creates the biggest shift. And finally, the one habit that shrinks memory faster than almost anything else, is believing that it's already too late. I can't count how many patients have told me, "I'm just getting old, what can I do?" But here's what I tell them, your brain is constantly rewiring itself. Even in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. It's called neuroplasticity. And the more you believe in your ability to grow, the more your brain will show up for you. I once met a 77-year-old named Frank who started journaling every morning just to remember what he did the day before. After a month, his memory improved. He felt more aware, more present. I've seen women in their 80s pick up painting, dancing, or even learning a new language. Every time they challenged their brain with curiosity instead of fear, they grew stronger, not weaker. So I want to leave you with this: memory is not just a mental process. It's a lifestyle. And every single choice you make, the food you eat, the way you move, how you sleep, the thoughts you entertain, all of it either strengthens or weakens that incredible mind of yours. If you've made it this far in the video, you're already taking the first step: awareness. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Maybe today you take a walk instead of sitting all morning. Maybe you eat a nourishing breakfast. Maybe you finally get that water bottle out of the cupboard. Small shifts. Big results. Because when you take care of your brain, it takes care of you. If this video gave you something to think about, something you hadn't heard before, please take a moment to like this video. It helps more people find this life-changing information. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one habit you're going to try starting tomorrow? Let's create a space where we learn and grow together. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Health Refresh for more weekly videos that empower your body and your mind, especially after 60. We're here to support your journey, every single day. Here's to living stronger, longer, and healthier, one beautiful, brain-friendly habit at a time.